You look like Superman.
Oh, cool. Yeah, right on. Well, he was the original, right? So,
The original what?
superhero.
Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen have been kidnapped. Who will save the day? You are Superman. All the powers are yours. Flight, heat vision, super speed, super strength, freezing breath, and X-ray vision. Buy early and receive a DC Comics Collector's Edition Superman comic book. Superman, the new Adventures video.
Hi, welcome back to Did They Game It? I'm your host Michael, and today I'll be talking about Superman 64. Actually, it's just called Superman, and it's on the Nintendo 64, and I'll be talking about Superman the Animated Series, the show that it's based off of. I'd like to start this episode off a little different, if I may, by reading a passage from a journal I just happened to stumble upon. This seems very poignant right now. A boy beat this game once, forced to play again and again until he triumphed, or at least until he had enough allowance saved up to purchase a new game. Years later, that boy returned as a man. The years had dulled the gleam in his eyes and captured a little hope from his heart, but he was there to prove that the fiery determination he had as a boy could not be extinguished. The game was perched atop the rest as if it had been waiting for him to return after all these years. He was there to prove that he wasn't just a man. He was a Superman. Wow. Powerful words. Whoever wrote this, they have quite a way of expressing themselves that I think we could all learn from, and maybe we could use this in our daily lives somewhere. I was the little boy. The little boy was me. I wrote this. Alright. Let me take you back to 1999, when Lou Vega's Mambo No. 5 was taking the world by storm, and any kid that had a holographic Charizard was king of the playground. Also, Superman for the Nintendo 64 was released. I've had this game in my collection for quite some time, but what I'm trying to ascertain is how long exactly I've had this game in my collection. Because we all know this is a bad game and a disappointing game. But if I can show when I purchased it from Blockbuster for $15, I can really show how much of a disappointment this game was. But you're gonna have to follow me because the way I'm trying to figure it out is a bit, it's gonna take a little bit. So, I was playing this game when one of the Pokemon movies came out. Whether it was Pokemon the first movie that came out November 10th, 1999. I skipped school that day. They handed out promotional Pokemon cards. I got a Dragonite that said Kids WB in the corner. Not important, but I still have it. Or was I playing it while Pokemon 2000 came out? July 21st, 2000. They gave out the Mew collectible card with that one. I also ditched school. One of the hard things about this is I was either playing Resident Evil 2 on the Nintendo 64 or Superman 64. I was playing those games when these movies came out. I just can't remember which one it came out with. Now, since Superman came out on the Nintendo 64 May 31st, 1999, it would have only been out for 5 months max if I was playing that when I saw Pokemon the first movie that was released November 10th, 1999. Now, I had to look because Resident Evil 2 was released October 31st, 1999. And back then, I was never able to get new release games as a kid. So it would have only been 10 days before the first Pokemon movie came out. And I don't think I would have had it. But there is a caveat to that. I was hurt when that game came out. How did I get hurt? Somebody had left a pitchfork-like tool in the backyard face up. Now let's talk about that tool. This tool is like a pitchfork except the forks go at a 90-degree angle. So if it's flat on its back, the forks are sitting straight up. Now, me and this tool have a history. I stepped on it once before when I was like 4 years old, and then I stepped on it again this time. And it almost went all the way through my foot. You could see it slightly poking out face side of my foot. And I remember my dad had to pull it open and he poured peroxide in there and he put his pinky in to get out all the dirt and stuff. So, not fun. So there is a chance that I got that game right away. So I could have been playing that when Pokemon the first movie came out. Oh, also, later on, I almost got stabbed in the face with that pitchfork in the garage. It was like a Final Destination thing, where something fell over, hit into something else, and then hit that pitchfork while I was at the freezer, and it came and stopped like 3 inches in front of my face. Why do we still have that? Actually, I think my mom ended up destroying it because she saw that it was a tool of evil. If I was playing that game when the first Pokemon movie came out, I would have had to have gotten Superman about 5 months or less after it was released for $15, which shows that's crazy to get a $50 game for 15 bucks only a few months after release. Now, if I was playing it when Pokemon 2000 came out, then it would have been 14 months later about. So if that's the case, not terrible. The only way I could really find this out, I guess, is to call the friend that ditched with me in elementary school, which I haven't talked to in 16 years, and ask him, what game was I playing November 10th, 1999? But I don't think I should do that. Maybe. Well, now that we've gained no definitive answers from that story, let's talk about the game itself. The game was produced by our friends at Titus. You might remember them as the company that produced Blues Brothers 2000 on the Nintendo 64. So they were just churning out the classics. When the Superman animated series was being put into production, Titus had called up Warner Brothers and asked them if they could buy the rights to produce a Superman video game. And Warner Brothers was asking them if they really wanted to purchase it and do this. And Titus said, yeah, we want to make the game of it. So Warner Brothers sold the right to Titus. And I guess the department that had sold the rights ended up changing and being ran by different people. Well, those people apparently didn't like Titus producing the Superman game because they felt like they didn't pay enough for the property and they thought that a larger studio should produce the game. And then it kind of sounds like they just started to sabotage Titus from there on out. So I don't know if they were trying to run out the clock on the contract so it reverted back to them, or what was fully going on. But it was supposed to be a different game. From what I see, they had built a metropolis that was supposed to be destructible. So when Superman's fighting villains and things like that, the buildings would be getting destroyed. And he would be able to fight people on the street and stuff like that. Well, I guess Warner Brothers didn't like that because they came in and were saying that, well, we don't want Superman destroying buildings and Superman can't be punching people. I read that they were about halfway done with this version before they had to shift over to the version that we got, where everything is set in a virtual reality metropolis. And it's no longer an open world. Now you just go around and do these little missions, and instead of fighting regular people, you fight shadow people. Also, it looks like Titus had to call Warner Brothers and get everything approved, and Warner Brothers would purposely wait to get back to him. And I don't know if this is just a made-up example or if this is real, but they talked about having to get it approved that Superman could go underwater because they were saying that it wouldn't make sense for Superman to be underwater, so they had to cite comic book examples to show that he breathes underwater and he'll be fine. With all these delays, the game came out late and they weren't able to test it properly and get out all the bugs and glitches that you see in the game. And there are a lot of them. Also, there was a PlayStation version that was 90% done that Warner Brothers pulled the plug on. And from what I heard, it was supposed to be a much better version than the Nintendo 64 version. And after you play it, that's not hard to believe. I totally believe it had to have been a better version. I don't think it could have been worse. So let's talk about gameplay and the story. First off, the controls are weird. As soon as I started, I had a hard time with the controls, and I had to do practice mode to get used to flying and fighting. as much as you can with this game. And honestly, I remember the rings. Of course, I remember all the ring levels because that's what anybody remembers. Whenever you bring up this game, the first thing people say is, "Oh, is that the one with all the rings?" Yeah, it's the one with all the rings. What I forgot was how many ring levels there were in this game. So the game starts off with Jimmy, Lois, and some guy named Hamilton being put into the virtual reality by Lex Luthor. So naturally, Superman has to go in there and save them. How does he save them? By flying through rings. And he starts off by saying there's no time to waste. And then, yes, there is, Superman. There's plenty of time to waste. Why else would you be flying through rings? So you have to do that about 3 times. And then in the middle of the ring levels, there's these small levels like kill 3 shadow people before they kill civilians, and I guess just random civilians in the VR. And you have to do stuff like use your super breath to stop tornadoes, things like that. So finally, once you do enough ring levels, we get to the dam, where Mala has set up bombs to blow the dam. So this is where you really feel like Superman. You have to go get an access code to open up some doors to rescue some workers at the dam. And to find the access code, you have to move some cardboard boxes. And I felt like Superman because I can also move around cardboard boxes indiscriminately. So once you get the access code, you see Mala and she says you'll never find the bombs in time. And then she just walks off. And you just let her leave. So you go, you rescue the workers, and then you fight her, and it's just a slap fight. They're almost always slap fights. And then you find the bombs, and you freeze the bombs, and that's it. It's a pretty easy level. Now after that, the fun really begins. Did you want more rings? Because we have more rings. How about a 4-minute long challenge with rings? Not enough? How about 7 minutes? One more, we'll up that. 8 minutes. 8-minute ring level. But you don't really need that much time. I actually didn't lose a ring level until the very last one. And none of these I ran out of time or needed most of the time they gave me. So, in that way, I think that's a little exaggerated, how difficult the ring levels are, because they're not really hard. They're just annoying, and there's way too many of them. And there's the little lame missions in between where you gotta like save the people. I think this one I had to pick up like a car and move it. And then that was it. So it's like they just ran out of ideas or were trying to put in anything to take up time. So after you do enough ring levels, I think you gotta do 3 or 4 in between every actual mission. So after that, you go to LexCorp. And this is where I had my first real glitch, where I just went through the wall and I was running with my body in half and my legs above me, and you're just out in nowhere, just looking back at the level setup so you can see everywhere you're supposed to go. And then I had to restart the mission. I didn't get too far, but yeah, I had to restart it. While I was flying around in the lobby, because you have to beat the shadow people and then find a code to use on the computer, my favorite part where I started laughing was I got caught on a bush. Just a little planter they had in the lobby, my foot got caught on, and then I couldn't fly, and I just kept getting shot, and I died. So after you get past the planter, you get like a code where it's like red, blue, green or something that you have to put in to cover up kryptonite. Then you keep going and you fight more shadow people and more robots until you get into Lex Luthor's office, and then Brainiac's there waiting for you. And is he gonna get slapped? You run up and you two start slapping each other until he's had enough, and then he hops on his rascal scooter and flies out the window. Then you go to Luthor's desk and you see that there's files there saying where Jimmy Olsen's being held and who has him, where Lois Lane is. And then you go to fly out the window that Brainiac flew out to end the level. And I started laughing here because you literally see Superman just fly to the end of the level and then awkwardly float there. It's like a guy in a play who is supposed to like exit stage left and then only walks halfway behind the curtain and just stands there and half his face is staring out at the crowd. So that was the best part of the level for me. And then more rings. Which, what is the plan here? Why did Lex Luthor design this virtual reality so Superman just flies through hoops like he's competing in a dog agility contest or something? This is the weirdest virtual reality where... Shit, this is Lawnmower Man, isn't it? I'm still in Lawnmower Man. I never left that virtual reality, did I? No, this virtual reality is worse than Lawnmower Man. So if you lose one of the little missions after a ring level, you have to redo the ring level again. The main ones I had a problem with were the tornado ones, where you would have to fly up and use your super breath on the tornado before it reached people. And you can't like just stop your flight. So if you're flying towards it and you don't let go of B quick enough, I think that was the flying button. If you don't let go of that quick enough, you'll go past the tornado, have to fly back the other way, and hope you stop where you can use your super breath on it. Because if not, it kills a person, then you gotta redo the ring level again. Now we're at a LexCorp factory where we're trying to save Lois Lane from Metallo, and she's here investigating an illegal gun smuggling ring that Lex Luthor is involved in. But this is virtual reality, so none of this is real. I don't really understand her motivation for this. The Daily Planet has the worst investigative journalist team I've ever seen. Like, doing stuff like this, investigating a gun smuggling ring in a virtual reality where you should just be trying to get out. Also, you work with Superman, obviously. Like, every day. And he says weird stuff all the time when it's like, oh, Clark, you just missed Superman. Oh, I have a feeling I'll be seeing him around, Lois. And nobody's like, wait, what the fuck does that mean? That's kind of a weird thing to say. That's something like Superman would say. You know, now that I look at you, it's all kind of coming together, and your weird behavior, and that's what I mean. It's not that hard. Like, anybody would pick up on, but whatever. Everybody knows this. It's all been talked about a lot. Worst team. So you release Lois from where she's being held, and then she tells you that she's going to investigate this virtual reality gun smuggling ring, which seems pointless since it's not real. She's immediately captured and screams, "It's a trap." No shit, Lois. They weren't just going to let you wander around a criminal enterprise like that. So you have to rescue her again, but you need a key card. And you know where you find a key card? That's right, you move cardboard boxes, which is... I'm Superman. I can do that. So you get Lois, and you're supposed to escort her through the warehouse and kill the enemies as she's walking and make sure she lives. But where you rescue her from, you can just walk into her and get her to walk into like the awning of a door. So she can't get past the door frame. And then I just flew around and killed all the enemies that were going to be in front of her as she was walking, and circled back and then just nudged her again out of the way of the door frame. So she just walked through clear. Until I got to Metallo. That's the main bad guy in this one. And yeah, I just beat the shit out of him in a corner. Like, he was supposed to come out, and I don't think he did in time, or maybe it was because I was too far ahead because of what I did earlier with killing everybody before Lois got there. And yeah, I just slapped the hell out of him, and that was it. Superman wins. Guess what we're on to next? That's right, more rings. And after we go through all the ring levels again, we get to a parking garage where we need to save Jimmy Olsen. And this is probably the worst level, just by design. Because it's a maze, and then you finally find Jimmy, and then you gotta go find another key card or whatever, and Lex Luthor dropped it under his car. So you gotta go find his car and punch it and pick up the key card. But before all that, like, the maze part of it is just terrible. Like, you have no idea where you're at trying to find stuff. But finally, once you find that, you release Jimmy from the robots that are guarding him. Then he tells you that there's a bomb in the building and that they're all counting on you, like Leslie Nielsen in Airplane.
I just want to tell you both, good luck. We're all counting on you.
And he just runs off. Also, what a little shit. I just realized that he also is a journalist and stuff and didn't give you information like what level Lex Luthor's car is on. Because there's 1, 2, 3 different levels. Maybe some of that information would help me out. So anyway, after that, he doesn't tell you where the bomb is either. Maybe he doesn't know that, but I don't think Jimmy knows shit. So you find the bomb and you find kryptonite there, and you use freezer breath on the bomb and the kryptonite to protect yourself. And then, oh, guess who's right outside the door after you do that? Jimmy. To tell you that Darkseid is there, and he's really mad, and he's not going to let this go. So here you go. This is supposed to be a really good fight, because from what I know in the comics and the cartoon show, Darkseid's a real cosmic threat. And they want you to beat him up and take him to the police at the beginning of the level. So I just fly up to Darkseid accidentally, and I kept flying, and I just picked him up. I didn't fight him, I just picked him up and then started taking him to the police. But I think this broke the game because I dropped him and went to pick him up again, and then I just died. And I had half my life left and just died. So I kept doing this, and I would pick him up and then drop him. And finally, because you get lost trying to get back to the police, and you keep getting killed because more enemies show up as you're trying to take him to the police, which I don't know how they're going to handle a cosmic threat anyway, like just put him in a cell. But I started to run, or fly, pick up Darkseid, drop him, wait for him to get up, and then just blast the hell out of him with my laser eyes from a distance. He died, then I pick him up, and then I flew him to the police. This level just was a maze, and it took forever. This was the longest part of the game for me. And it was the easiest villain fight. I didn't even have to fight him. I just picked him up right away when you fly into him. It is crazy. I was thinking about the extra villains or shadow people you have to fight in this level. And I mentioned Lou Bega earlier in Mambo number 5. When you kill them, they make that like Lou Bega yell in Mambo number 5. So that came full circle. Now, more rings. And then you do a lot of tornado levels in this one. It was like they just didn't care at this point, because I think you do 3, and then there's just one random one where you pick up a car. So I think at this point they were just starting to kind of give up on the whole game. After that, you go to Star Labs to face Parasite and save Hamilton. And this one is just kind of repetitive, where you have to get... First off, like, Parasite's just talking to you, and you don't start fighting him or anything. You just jog off and leave him. And you go to get Hamilton. Hamilton says you got to put in a code back where you came from. You go do that. You fly back to Hamilton. He tells you to trap Parasite. And you have to go underwater and get a key card thing. And that's where you fight the crab people. So finally you get kind of a different element to the game, a different thing to fight. But the crab people are just funny to fight. Oh, note. You have to talk to Hamilton before you try to go underwater to the door. Because when I went underwater without talking to Hamilton, the game glitched and you couldn't go any further. So there was nothing to do but restart the level. And then after that, you're supposed to trap Parasite in this dome thing. And I went to fight a robot and I glitched through the floor and was just shot. Like, I couldn't even see myself and I was shot to death. Let's see, where did I glitch to? This level, I had a lot of glitches. And you realize that this game just becomes trial and error on what not to do. So you lose the mission. Like, don't pick up the robot at this point or you'll glitch to the ground. Don't do this or you'll glitch through the wall. So this level wasn't really hard. It was just a lot of backtracking and a lot of glitching out. So Oh, hey, more rings. And then you get to a subway level, and the subway level is super easy. You just fly back and forth while Lex blows up the tunnel at the end, then the tunnel at the start. There's some old guy who's asking you help to be escorted through the subway, and I guess I helped him because I killed the shadow people in front of him, and then I killed the robot at the end, and I just flew out of the subway. And that was it. I glitched in that one too quite a few times, I wrote down. But that level's so short, I guess it didn't bother me that much right there. So if you're not playing the hardest level, this is where the game would end. But since we're playing the hardest level, trying to get the real ending, you guessed it. Like a woman whose boyfriend is about to be shipped off overseas, you're getting a ring. More ring levels. This is the one where I lost because you had to pick multiple choice, like where to go, and then sometimes you would go one way and it would just end and it would say Lex wins. So that was just trial and error to finally get to Brainiac's ship. And when you get there, you're fighting a lot of crab people. And it just looks like a bowling alley fight. Like the crab comes up, puffed up, and it shoves you, and then you just start swinging wildly, and the crab starts swinging wildly, and the only thing missing is a little kid's birthday party in the background. So you fight a bunch of crab people, and you're trying to collect 12 pieces of this machine to get through the level, and once you get them all together, you go and you start them up in a computer, and then you get transported to these machines where you have to jump through them to get them to equal 2000. So like you might start with 2200 and you have to take away 200 from that to get to 2000, or you'll start with like 1800, but you don't know how much the machines will take away. So my strategy was I would just go diagonally across the room to the machine that's there, and it seemed like it worked most of the time. But this is where the level kept glitching out for me, because when you get transported, there'd be crab people there, and I got hit once and died. And that happened a couple times, and then I came in and decided to move from a distance, and I lasered and killed them, and then they show back up and they hit you and you don't die once. So I don't think that's how it was designed. I think that was just another bug in the game. And I glitched through a wall on this one. I just have a list here of all of the glitches. One of the glitches was after you have everything equal 2000, you're supposed to save Lois and Jimmy by blowing freezer breath on them and putting them, I guess, in an ice barrier and moving them to a different room. And when I did it one time with Jimmy, I got him to the other room. He's like, "That was cold, but thanks for getting me to safety, Superman." And then he walked back into danger. And I was trying to stop him, but it wouldn't let you stop him, and then he just dies. And I have to restart the whole level over. One time I pushed Lois off, like the balcony thing, and she died. And I had to do it over. Then Jimmy started walking back into danger again and got electrocuted. And then finally, I got past that, and it talks about how there's a self-detonation about to happen, and the game froze. And this is the point where, like, I shut it off, and I walked away for a little bit. I decided to clean the cartridge because I looked it up, and I guess in that bomb sequence, this is a well-known glitch. So I just had to redo it again. And then you get to the 3 bombs that you're supposed to place in the center of the ship, and one of the bombs opened up early, and I couldn't get it to the center, and I blew up, and I had to redo it. You're supposed to find 2 other bombs, and like it doesn't give you any hint on how to do this, but you're supposed to use your laser eyes to start the bomb and then get into the teleporter next to it. And I was stuck for a while trying to think, and I finally remembered that that's what I did like 26 years ago. So you set off the bombs, you go through the teleporter, and when you go through the last teleporter, you get to a screen, a portal that just says the end. That's it. Then it says Superman wins. It shows Lois, Jimmy, and Hamilton coming out of the portal thing. And Lex Luthor is like, you defeated me in the virtual world, but I'm still in this one, Superman. Yep, and that's the game. I guess there's also multiplayer to it that I completely forgot about, that I didn't play that. I mean, maybe I'll have Sean play that with me. Yeah, he'll probably enjoy that. But yeah, that's Superman the game. I don't think I hate it as much as I should. A lot of people talk about it being the worst game they've ever played, and I've just seen videos on how it's the worst game ever made. I definitely don't recommend it. The glitches became too much as the game went on. Before that, the glitches and bugs weren't super terrible, but as the game goes on, they did become infuriating. But yeah, I don't hate it as much as I should. I mean, that's not even the worst game I've played this month. So there are games I can list that are worse than it. I didn't mind playing it, honestly, except for the last level when I kept dying because of glitches. Then I really didn't want to finish, but, you know, I read that thing in the journal about being a Superman. So, honestly, after that, it's like I gotta beat this. Since I have the game complete in box, I decided to read the comic that came with it. Apparently on the front of the box, I have the collector's edition, which I am guessing this is the only edition they ever made. The comic book basically just shows Lex Luthor and Brainiac working together, releasing Parasite, and then Brainiac bringing in Darkseid and other villains to team up to take on Superman. And that's about it. It doesn't really add anything. But the comic did have Bizarro Superman in it. He was the one who captured Lois and brought her to Lex Luthor and the virtual reality portal. The game was originally supposed to have Bizarro Superman, but for obvious reasons, they weren't able to put him in. Swear I remember playing and having to fight Bizarro Superman when I was younger, but I guess it wasn't in the game at all. Maybe it was just the Howie Mandel effect. I have had people before multiple people contact me to ask me about things like the Bernstein Bears situation, you know, how it's spelled differently, and Mr. Peanut. And I think it's weird that I've had multiple different people come to me to ask if I remember our reality before it merged with another world or whatever happened. So I feel like that's a compliment. Now I'll have to call upon them and see if they remember Bizarro being in Superman for the Nintendo 64. Alright, I'll move on with my life. Well, since I have the box, I guess I'll read the back of it in a comical 1930s voice, since that's when Superman came out. Superman, the new Superman Adventures. Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen have disappeared. They've been kidnapped by the malevolent powers of Lex Luthor and Brainiac, who have brought them into a virtual reality version of Metropolis. Superman must come to the rescue. The Man of Steel must work through the virtual dimensions and find a way to conquer the evil masterminds that created it. Explore the incredible powers of Superman firsthand as you battle to rescue Lois Lane from the clutches of Metalo. Then, attempt to free Jimmy Olsen from the steel grip of Darkseid. Race into outer space to face Brainiac's evil alien technology. Above all else, destroy Luthor's deadly dream of a virtual reality metropolis. You control the powers. You are Superman. All the superpowers: fight, heat vision, freezing breath, super strength, and X-ray vision. Pick up and use any objects as a weapon. Battle on land, underwater, and in the sky against Metalo, the Parasite, Darkseid, and Lex Luthor's minions, as you attempt to save Metropolis from doom. 14 alternating indoor-outdoor levels, up to 4 players simultaneously, 2 multiplayer modes, exclusive Collector's Edition Superman comic book inside. And yeah, I think that's how everybody was supposed to read the back of the box. So for Superman the Animated Series, I decided to start with an episode called The Late Mr. Kent, which I read was a pretty good one. And I was pleasantly surprised by the animated series. I never watched it as a kid. I remember it being on, but I never really cared for Superman when I was younger. And I was a Spider-Man boy. Like, I would always watch the Spider-Man animated series, and then if I'd see Superman on, it was like, no. So, I started with the late Mr. Kent, and really good episode. It starts off with the Warner Brothers logo, with Bugs Bunny chewing the carrot next to it, and the little theme. That's nostalgia right there. Like, that really took me back. So the episode starts with Clark interviewing a guy on death row who's telling him that he's innocent. And with his superpowers, he's listening to his heart rate and can tell that he's telling the truth. So he goes to the police station and gets the files on the case and goes back to the Daily Planet and starts looking into it. And then he gets hungry. Not that he needs to eat, out of habit, and goes to eat a slice of pizza. And then it clicks that the guy said he ordered a pizza the night he did the murder at the same time. So he goes to the pizza place, he gets a floppy disk, and looks on it at the records and realizes that, yeah, he did get the pizza right when the murder was happening. So he goes to take this evidence to the governor to get the guy a pardon, and then his car blows up on the way there. And people see him go into the river and the car exploding, so Clark Kent's dead. He can't pop up as Superman. Then he has to try to figure out a way to get this guy's name cleared, and also figure out a way to have Clark Kent still live. He talks about how he needs Clark Kent or he'll lose his mind. He can't be Superman 24/7. And as this show goes on, the way he has to save Lois constantly, it's like, yeah, I would lose my shit too. Because he goes to his house and somebody had already ransacked the place and stole whatever other evidence could have been there that cleared the guy. And they set a bomb. He has to save Lois. And then he sees in the crowd the inspector that gave him the evidence, so he knows he's in on it. And he uses Lois to go talk to the guy, and for some reason, she's trying to get him to confess in a stairwell, and Superman's outside listening, and then she gets pushed off the stairs, and he flies in and saves her. And I just thought that could have went terribly wrong. He could have just shot her. He's a detective. He has a gun. She could have smashed her head on the way down. It's just, Lois is infuriating. So anyway, after that, they have enough evidence that he's the one who did it, and the dude gets into the police copter, and it has machine guns and missiles, and he's hitting Superman with the machine guns, and it's slowing him down, and then he hits him with a missile, and he goes flying into like a cave area and blows up, and he's like, haha. It's Superman. I never understood why these villains thought, and that's the end of that chapter, and it's Superman. He's not dead. Like, he gets blown up all the time. So, Superman stops him and arrests him. He gets to return as Clark Kent because the guy on the boat that saw his car and him go into the ocean is legally blind. So basically they just play it that Clark got out of the water and he didn't see him. And he called Lana Lang to help him out. So she's his alibi that he's been with her the whole time, recuperating. But the end is why I miss older cartoons like this, because they show the inspector, now he's on death row, and they're taking him and they're putting him into the gas chamber, and he's sitting there and starts talking about how could he have survived that explosion? It doesn't make any sense. Then he says, he's Superman. And you see the executioner push the lever forward and the chamber fills up with gas. And that's how it ends. And it's like, I miss that in cartoons. The dude was a dickhead. He was gonna kill like 3 people. And yeah, he got what he deserved. And they showed that. Also, they showed that the innocent guy was about to get gassed too, but Superman busted in and did a spinny tornado thing and cleared it out. But yeah, they went for some realism in these cartoons. Realism in a Superman cartoon. But I watched some of the other ones too. Like, they have one where Superman goes into Gotham and Batman's been kidnapped. So he pretends to be Batman to keep the criminals worried and in check. Which, I know Batman fans, they're like the worst to talk with about this. But I would be more afraid of Superman if I was a criminal in Gotham. It's like, okay, with Batman, I doubt it, but it is possible I might get in a lucky shot and shoot him right in the face that's uncovered. Superman, I'm not going to get in a lucky shot. Unless I have kryptonite, that dude's going to get me. Like, there's not much I can do about it. So I know Batman fans will probably figure out some way that, well, actually, Batman. But come on. Realistically, I would be way more worried about Superman. But honestly, good show. I wish I would have watched it as a kid. I miss 90s where they would show somebody getting executed. It's a good lesson. Don't be a shithead and you won't get the gas chamber. Well, I guess that innocent guy almost got the gas chamber. It's not perfect. But who is? Even Superman has his flaws. Watch an episode where Lois died and then he became a dictator, basically. That was another episode I watched. So he's not perfect either, but close enough. So Superman on the Nintendo 64. Did they game it? Well, I can tell that it was based on Superman the Animated Series. They gamed it that much. Did I feel like Superman? No. Once I got caught on that bush and couldn't fly anymore, it didn't feel like Superman. So I'm gonna say they didn't game it, but I feel bad for Titus because they tried, and a lot of interference by Warner Brothers. I still probably enjoy the game more than I should. Man, what would I rank it? It's gonna be hard for me to put a number on it, so I'm just gonna grade it as Kryptonite. Do with that what you will. Well, that's it for this week. Join me next week when I review Murphy Brown on the Super Nintendo. Until then.
Fights a never-ending battle for truth, justice, and the American way.